everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are here to talk about our new favorite show, The Way Home. We're talking about episodes 4 and 5. Going to be really fun. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Michelle's here.
Hey, everyone.
And Kristen is here.
Hello. I can't wait to talk about these 2 episodes.
Yes.
I've been waiting.
Yes. Yeah. This show is just really taken off. I guess now that the name for the group is Ponders. How do we feel about that? Ponders.
Oh, because they jump into a pond?
Yeah.
I like that.
It's okay. I mean, it's no Hardee's, but I feel like it'll do.
I feel like I saw earlier on that they were trying to find like a fandom name, and they were doing votes, and one of them was Homies, and I was like, that just doesn't. I think they were trying to play on the Hearties, but it just doesn't sound right.
No. I feel like we should still be workshopping the Ponders. I don't know if I fully accept that, but we'll go with it for now. But 2 more episodes. And Michelle, how do you feel about how the show's going so far?
I'm really enjoying it. I was talking to a friend yesterday actually about how hard I am struggling with finding good TV. Not so much good TV, but TV where I'm watching 5 episodes at a time and you don't really feel it. I feel like everything right now that I'm watching is a struggle, and I don't know if it's just where I am in life, not having as much time, feeling a bit tired. But shows that I feel like are made for me, shows like the crime shows, and I'm a big fan of Criminal Minds. I've really been enjoying the new season of that. But even shows like that have been recommended to me, I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the only show that's on right now, other than The Last of Us, where I am like excited every week and I'm devastated when there's not an episode on. It just feels like such easy viewing. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying it. And especially just with not being able to do Heartland as well just now, it's definitely filling that hole for me.
Yeah, I don't watch a ton of television. I watch more movies, as we all know. But aside from All Creatures Great and Small, which I love that show so much. This is definitely my favorite show currently airing. I'm glad we're covering it because it's not the kind of show I would probably watch on my own. So that's always fun. A perk of the podcast. Yeah. What about you, Kristen? What do you think of it so far?
Well, I was going to say, I agree with Michelle, like The Last of Us and The Way Home are like the 2 shows that I'm like most excited to be watching every week. And I just love, like, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of depth in this show and a lot of like little theories that you can kind of put together. And I love when you can like do that, when you're trying to like piece together, wait, does this connect back to something we heard in episode 2? And like, does this connect back to this? And I don't know. I feel like I've not really watched many Hallmark. I know they haven't really done that many shows, but I haven't really watched many of their shows before. And this feels like a little bit more, I don't know, like serious, a little bit more elevated, so to speak.
Yeah.
Something that I wasn't really expecting. So I really love it. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool that they're developing like plot lines, particularly for Kat and for Alice, like that are both equally engaging. It's not just your teenage. It's not really. It is a teenage show, but it's not only a teenage show. You've also got Kat. You've got Dell. Just these 3 women are so fun.
Yeah, you got something for everybody.
Yeah. The episode we're going to talk about is called "What's My Age Again," and this is the 4th episode. And it's Alice double dates with her parents as teens. Kat's first visit to the past brings a surprising discovery, and Dell swallows her pride to ask for help. So, Michelle, overall, what do you think about this episode?
I really love this episode. And I feel like I knew that she would time travel, but I also didn't know. It still took me by surprise that they did this so quickly. I just wasn't expecting it for like a 4th episode. I was sort of expecting it, a couple episodes down the line, towards the finale. But yeah, the idea that both of them are time traveling at the same time is not something that I was expecting. And for them to also not talk about it and keep it a secret, that really surprised me as well. But yeah, I thought this was a really good episode for Elliott as well. You just saw like a whole other sort of side of Elliott, and how sort of asking the question of how difficult a situation he's found himself in. Yeah, poor Elliott. I feel so bad for him.
What do you think, Kristen, overall of this one?
I thought this one was so fun. I love the whole double date aspect and like really getting to see like not even just see what is it like to be, you know, see your parents as kids, but like actually interact with them and be like, oh wow, my dad was kind of a snob. Like he's kind of a jerk. Okay. And yeah, the whole thing with the mom time traveling, that was crazy as well. And I'm just like, tell people about this, tell your daughter, like I need her to know. I thought Elliott's story with Dell, I thought it was kind of random. Like I get that it's kind of just showing like the girls are so deep in the past that they're letting the present kind of like just go. Like they're not you know, there for Dell when she needs them. But for me, the heart of this, I really love just seeing Cat time travel and then seeing them all kind of seeing that first date, that double date in the past. And I can't wait to see like what that's gonna mean. Oh, it was just so exciting.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Michelle, about the fact that I am surprised they are doing as much so quickly in the
Mm-hmm.
story, because you think they're going to want multiple seasons and stuff, and I thought it would take a while for Kat to realize and for her to time travel, and all the stuff in the fourth episode is surprising. I think at the amount of story that they've told so far in just this handful of episodes, because especially a Hallmark show, I mean, When Calls the Heart, oh my gosh, it took them forever to have any progress with Jack and Elizabeth. It took so long. We all know how they handled that. But yeah, all of those shows have just been so slow as far as their pacing, and so this is definitely just so different in every way from anything Hallmark's ever done before.
It just
And
makes
Yeah,
me think they must have a lot set up if they're doing this so quickly. That's what would be my
yeah,
hope, right? Like that they already have planned some crazy things. I don't know.
we have to get Heather Conkle on to find out more about that. I really am curious to see how far out they have this planned, or is this going to be kind of like Lost, where they're sort of making it up as they go?
yeah, and I don't know if it's just, you know, my algorithm, because I do follow a lot of Hallmark stuff. I follow a lot
Uh-huh.
of stuff, Supergirl stuff, so that I get a lot of Kyler fans on my timeline, myself included. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's just that, but it just feels like the space that this show is occupying online is just really lovely. And it's just full of people with theories and just having a blast watching this show and just being so surprised that Hallmark has produced something like this. And it would be, I don't know, I really I really can't see this show going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
I will be surprised if this show doesn't get renewed for multiple seasons.
Yeah. Me
And I,
too.
like you said, I just hope that they have multiple seasons in them, that they haven't, you know, gone too fast too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
Yeah. So what did we think of Kat and Andy? That kind of got developed a little bit in this episode. Alex Malari Jr., pretty dreamy, I think. And he was in the one of the Discovery Plus Christmas movies this last year that I forget what it was called, but it was in the one with Bobby Flay. He was in that one. But he's an animal doctor.
I gotta say, I was kind of surprised by how quick they kind of, it was like, can I get your number? And then it was like, oh, we have a kiss already. I don't know. I was kind of surprised. It kind of felt like it came out of nowhere a little bit, but that just surprised me.
I was surprised too. What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, completely surprised. Especially because Brady's there as well, so she's got 3 love interests currently.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see if he will be coming back. I really hope not, because I think this show is doing such an amazing job with the Cat and Elliott slow burn.
Mhm.
I feel like that they've really, really mastered that storytelling aspect of their relationship.
Mhm.
And I really don't want a storyline like that to come in between them.
Mhm.
I feel like they don't need it. And I feel like sometimes shows add too much into the pot at the one time. And yeah, I would just like to see that the Elliott and Kat and Brady sort of storyline
Yeah.
play out. I don't think we need 3.
Well, yeah, because I mean, she has such a good chemistry with Brady too. So it's a lot going on, and you do have that scene with Dell and Elliot, and she says some advice: play the long game, which I think, considering he's been playing this game since he was a teenager, he's been playing the long game. But I think that was fun, and the whole lobster festival is very Hallmarky. That was fun, I thought.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely fun.
Yeah. I felt they're doing a really good job of setting up the town as well, and setting up the vibe of the town, and the
Mhm.
community aspect of it, and all of the sort of side characters. I thought they've done that really well, considering it's episode 4 and there's already people that we know, friends, and
Mhm.
Nick's parents, and just all of these different people that populate the town.
Yeah, I think they did too, and especially when you get into the Roxy, and that whole element was very nostalgic and very sweet, and you got that sense of just this real town that people care about each other, and then I also really enjoy the cat. I think the casting for both Elliots is really strong. Like, it feels like this is the same person. They did a very good job, I think, with that,
Yeah,
of the
absolutely.
young and. Because it's not like one of the things I didn't, I guess, nitpick with the Shazam movie is I didn't feel like they were the same person, like, at all. Like, the teen, and Zachary Levi, as much as charming as he is, I did not feel like that was the same person.
Mhm.
And so, but in this case, I think they did a really good job. They feel like the same person.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell that the actors have worked together on sort of the mannerisms, and
Uh-huh.
like it's sort of eerie how similar they are physically, just in their mannerisms alone.
Yeah, I'd love to know kind of what they did, if they did work together, and kind of, or if that was more just the direction,
Mhm.
kind of helping them to be the same. But they did a really good job. I agree with that. And then so we have this double date between Brady and Kat and Nick and Alice. And that it is kind of a weird plot thread with this Nick and Alice, the fact that she would fall in love with somebody so quickly from the past, and what's going to happen with that. What do you think about that, Kristen?
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I don't know. Like, I think, like what we've said in the past episodes, he just has that, like, that quintessential, like, 90s
Yeah.
guy vibe that, like, I don't know, I get it. I get why she's, like, kind of enthralled in this world of, like, her mom as a teenager, and, like, this hunky 90s guy that she just, is falling for. It's like, especially because I guess in the beginning of this season, she's had such a difficult life, you know, and she had a lot of like struggles and getting in trouble in school and her parents separating. And now it's kind of like she's able to be at the very beginning of this, I don't know, just like new, fresh thing in this, you know, in this town that has such a connection to her family. So I don't know, I'm enjoying it. And I feel like you even see like on their date, you know, Nick is the one that's, you know, kind of on her side and like sees the same thing she's seeing, you know, especially in like the relationship with like her parents and being like, why is my dad such a snob? And like, you know, is cool with Elliott. And, you know, he seems like he's just friendly with everybody.
Well, but it feels like, how can this play out well? I mean,
I don't think
he's
it
an
can.
adult
But
and the
I don't think it can play out well, but I'm curious to see what they do.
yeah. What do you think about that, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kristen. Like, he's so perfectly cast, and he's so likable just in terms of the character and the actor. And I do think they have done a really smart thing with making him so like lovely and kind, and so not what you would think when you sort of look at a guy like, you know, the flannel and the leather and the long hair, but he is just
Mhm.
a really, really sweet guy. And so that sort of helps you sort of feel like you understand a little bit of what Alice, you know, can sort of forget the fact that he's, you know, a 40-year-old in her timeline. It just also doesn't help that I know who's going to be playing future Nick.
Yes.
And that's all I can think about. And I've never actually seen him play anything other than this one character, so that's also not helping.
Mhm.
But I do think they have captured a really special thing with it. Does feel like a little bubble, a little escapism bubble that Alice goes into every time she goes into the past. But I don't think that can last very long.
Oh, because obviously it would
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
super weird and awkward. So they can't.
yeah.
But I love what you said, the escapism bubble. I feel like that's like what this whole thing is, right? Is like, you know, she's like kind of rejecting the present to
Mm-hmm.
be in this like
Mhm.
little escapism bubble where everything feels perfect and she gets to like know these people on like a deeper level in her family
Yeah.
and in the community.
Well, and if people don't know, Carrie James, who is Caleb on Heartland, is going to be old Nick. And so we're all, us Heartland fans, are greatly looking forward to that. But yeah, I had thought for sure that he was going to show up at the Roxy closure. I was
My
surprised that we didn't get him next episode.
my heart was because I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be a disaster.
Right. And then you're like waiting and you're like, okay, but like there has to be that one more moment and we're gonna see him, even if it's just like a quick, and nope, they didn't give it to us.
Yeah, because you would think he would be there for this important moment
Mhm.
in his in his mom's life. So that was a little bit surprising. They're definitely they're making us wait for that. But um but yeah, so then you have, not only do you have Alice going on this double date with her parents, which is awkward, but you have Kat watching the whole thing going on. And it seems like there would be some kind of space-time continuum problem with Kat actually coming to contact with her former self. Like, can there
Ooh.
be two of her in the same I guess we'll find out.
I mean, the only thing I could think is maybe because it's not like she's the same age, maybe her younger self won't even know who she is. And
Mhm.
so maybe it won't affect it that way if she even ends up coming across her. But I mean, we did get to see, like, not only did she get to watch everything on this date, but she like got to talk to her, you know, her dad and like see her brother that had passed. And that was like really emotional too,
Yeah.
you know? So she has a
Yeah.
lot of just like emotional stuff, I feel like, going on between like seeing these people that she's lost and isn't over, and then kind of missing maybe what she had with Brady, or missing, you know, I don't know, it was like very nostalgic, her watching all that stuff. And it's like, maybe this whole time, you know, just like how Alice has been going back, maybe her mom was going back too and they just didn't know, you know, maybe this is all like
Mhm.
has happened in the future or in the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that Kat has any right to be upset with Elliott about all of this?
I mean, maybe. I mean, she is the mom. Like, I would be like, I want to know what's happening with, you know, my family. So if my kid was like time traveling to the past and like my friend knew, especially now that she's and you know what? None of them though are communicating. They all need to just come out and say it. We're time traveling, everyone. So
I don't know. I mean, I think that he's right though, that she wouldn't have believed him. And really when he's like, you're traveling through time and the thing that you're taking away from that is being mad at me. Like,
that's true.
I don't know. And he says that you should be helping Dell, not making life harder. So we find out that there's just one cow left from I guess they had several with when her husband was Colton, right? His name? Yeah, when he was still there, and so then they so the Ole Miss is the name of the cow, and it's calving in this episode, and they find out that it's breech. And I can't remember why Andy, the veterinarian, can't be there to help with this. They have to do it all by themselves.
Oh, was it like a storm, right?
Was it a storm? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he like went home.
So when they're on the date, they are watching. I thought they were watching Blair Witch Project because they're like, it's shaky cam. It's kind of scary. That came out in 1999. But then like in the next episode said their first movie was The Sixth Sense. And I was like, I think that was The Sixth Sense. And that doesn't have any shaky cam.
The dad, she corrected him. Alice corrects him because he was wrong. But it's supposed to be one of those, well, she knows because she was just there yesterday. He doesn't remember because it was like however many decades ago for him at that point.
Yeah. So that was very a fun little reference because I actually grew up in near Burkesville, Maryland, where the Blair Witch Project is set, and it was a true like phenomenon. I mean, there were like people were coming to visit, coming to see it. It was a big deal. I actually have never seen it because I'm not that big into scary movies, but just from living near there, it was a big deal, that movie. People really did believe it. Wow. So I thought that was kind of fun. And yeah, do we think that Brady is Alice being too hard on Brady, teen Brady, or do you think he was really a jerk? What do you think, Kristen?
I mean, he kind of was a jerk. He definitely, was very like, had that elitism, especially like coming into this small town. But I think, you grow up and, maybe things that, you look at things differently. But I mean, definitely as a teenager, I mean, I don't know if she should hold it against him necessarily. He was a kid. And this kind of is where they're, if they don't date and get married, she doesn't exist.
Right.
A whole Back to the Future situation that picture of them really will start disappearing. But, I think he was a jerk, but at the same time, obviously he's grown up and is trying to be a better father and a better person. And, I think as we get into episode 5, it makes you start wondering, like, what is his deal? Like, does he miss his wife? Does he miss what they had? Like, is he nostalgic? Is he jealous? Like there's, you're still trying to figure him out, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he was just sort of a little bit cocky, a little bit confident, and he's like, I've got the 5-year plan, got it all figured out.
Yeah. He wasn't the nicest to Elliott, but maybe he knew Elliott has a crush on, his girlfriend,
Yeah. There's definitely going to be a rivalry building between the two of them. That's for sure. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a bit of a snob, as sort of the teenage Brady. I do wish, as much as I'm all in on Kat and Elliott, I do wish we all get to see more of Brady and Kat's relationship, because I think for me it's just a little bit hard to understand what she saw in him. I think it's easy. I think it's easy to see what she saw him as a teenager, because she's sort of got blinders on a little bit. She's a teenager. She's sort of swept up in it all. But I would like to sort of understand a little bit more about what it is about him that she, wanted to build a life with him. Was it, our family situation? Did that, help her make that decision in some way? Or did she, I just wish we got a little bit more of him just to understand. And I do think he is like a regular cast member, so hopefully we will see a little bit more of that. But
Mhm.
yeah, we'll see.
Are you feeling now, would you say you're team Elliott for Kat or team Brady?
Team Elliott.
Team Elliott. You too, Kristen?
Yeah, I guess I would say Team Elliott. But I see what you mean. Like, I think especially at the end of this episode, you could see why Alice was like, "Why did you like this guy, Mom?" But then I feel like when we're seeing it through adult Kat's eyes, she's still like nostalgic about it and still like, gets why she as a young girl, like, really loved him.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm curious like about that. And also like to see more of young Elliott, because I feel like we've seen like adult Elliott, and young Elliott is sort of just like, he shows up to be like, all right, I'm helping you with this thing. Okay. And that's it. Like, I'd like to
Mhm.
see more of like, how does he get to where he is now?
Mhm. Yeah, I think well, hopefully we will see that and we will get to know. And were you surprised at all that Kat, aside from talking to Elliot, kept all this time travel a secret?
I
Yeah.
would have blurted it out. I would, especially like, I mean, I get what we were saying before of like, maybe Elliot couldn't tell her initially because she would think that he's crazy. But like, once she's time traveled, first of all, I would have walked right up to those girls and been like, wait, it's me.
Yeah.
It's me, your mom. I'm here in the past. And even after that, like the fact that she hasn't said anything to Alice, like, I know you're time traveling. I also time traveled with you. Like, and I think maybe that just shows, maybe they'll eventually get there, and it's just showing that their connection in the present day, they still don't have like a strong mother-daughter relationship yet at this point where they can like actually confide in each other. You know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah.
I don't know why she's not saying it though. Like what is holding her back from telling her daughter that they both are time traveling? I don't
Well,
know.
and I wouldn't have been like confident seeing just the two girls that I was time traveling.
Mhm.
I feel like it would take me a few more things to be like, oh my gosh, I'm in 1999.
Right. And not like
And so
I
I probably
am
would have
literally
said
dying
something.
in the lake and
Yeah.
having visions of, of death in the lake,
Yeah. I'd be like, is this a dream or the afterlife or something?
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was interesting. I mean, I guess it helps with her character because it just keeps more mystery going. Like the more she doesn't say things, the more we're kind of putting the pieces together. So I think it works character wise in the story. But whether that's what most of us would do when we time travel through a magic lake, I don't know. But at least she seemed kind of surprised to time travel, whereas like I felt like with Alice, it was kind of, she was just like, oh, this is cool. I'm thinking I would be kind of amazed if I
Yeah,
was all of a
yeah.
sudden time
I did think
traveling.
that when when I was watching that, I was like, I think Rachel will be happy because she definitely had a more appropriate response to
Yeah.
the time travel.
Yes. All right. So what would you give this episode 1 to 10? What do you think? What do you think, Kristen?
Oh, maybe an 8, because for the most part, I love the episode. I was kind of meh about the Dell and Elliot stuff in the present day. I just thought like, I don't know.
Mm,
I was more intrigued by you know, the date and the time traveling mom and all that stuff. So yeah, maybe 8.
yeah. What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, I'll say 8. I was just really blown away by Kyler's acting in this one. And I agree. I think the Dell stuff wasn't as great. I just wish it was a bit more sort of tied together.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 8 just in terms of the acting, just been really strong.
Because it is true that like anytime that if you were able to see the people that have passed on, especially a child in your life that had passed on, like see them again, like that would be
Hmm.
so emotional. I there's this what was it called? There was this take on Christmas Carol with Tony Braxton that on Lifetime a few years ago. And instead of having the ghosts be ghosts, they had them be her parents who had died in a car accident. And now we're coming back to help her, which I thought was such like an interesting, moving take. And what they did is every single time she saw her mother, she like broke down. Even if she
Mm-hmm.
had just seen her like a few minutes before, she's still, and I think that's totally accurate. Like you would never not you would never get kind of used to seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I I think they got that tone really, really well here. So I agree. An 8. I think the double date was really fun.
Yeah.
And it makes you think like, what would that be like if you were on a double date with your parents when they were meeting? Uh, yeah, that would.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So let's talk about episode 5. Don't Dream It's Over. And it's Kat and Elliott chaperone the high school's back to the 90s dance. Alice searches for a piece of her past in the present day. Dell says goodbye to more memories as local landmark closes its doors. So this one starts out with the theater is closing, the Roxy, and as you know, obviously as a movie lover, that was very, very nostalgic, very fun, and I liked that sense of community that they showed with the Roxy and all the memories and everything. It was very sweet. Overall, what did you think of this episode, Michelle?
Yeah, I really like this one. I don't think they've had a bad episode yet.
Mhm.
It is driving me crazy that they aren't talking about the fact that they're both time traveling. um, and I did like all of the Kat and Elliot stuff. Yeah, again, I'm just sort of struggling a little bit with Brady. I just would, yeah, I just don't know what way they're going to go with it.
Mhm.
And yeah, the Nick stuff had me on edge the whole episode, and I was surprised, even though the show is on Hallmark, it's not made by Hallmark, I don't think.
Yeah, it's
So
Mar
I was
Vista.
surprised that they actually did have that conversation of like it's a 40-year-old man, like they were like illegal.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I really think that Brady and Kat have really good chemistry. I mean, that kiss was great, I thought.
Hmm.
And so they're building that up that I could see legitimately the writers going where she ends up with Brady. Like they're doing a good job with that of like making, because a lot of times with love triangles, it's just so obvious who they're going to pick. So the fact they've kind of allowed some mystery, I think, between the two is nice. It's good. But what do you think overall of this one, Kristen?
Yeah. Well, going off what you said, and they've also set up like that both of these guys have a history with her. So it's not like, oh, this is a new romantic interest and an old romantic interest, which it's like they both have like this big past with her that, you really could go either way. But I did like this episode. I loved like the 90s, like I feel like there was a lot of like movie and nostalgic references, even like the moment on the stairs with
Yes.
with Kat and Elliott, and it's like the kiss me from like he's all that or she's all that kind
Yeah.
of moment. I know that the stuff with Alice and Nick is weird, but I get her curiosity. Like I would want to just see, like I just like, who is this? Like what is this person doing now? Like I would want to like research and just know, like, who are you now based off of who I knew. So I get why she's curious. It's definitely like a weird situation. Maybe that's why they were like, we don't want to bring him in just yet because it is a weird thing, but I get why she wants to know. Especially since she's like, already everyone from the past that we've seen, she does know who they are in modern day. Like it's her mom, it's her dad, it's her mom's best friend, it's her grandmother, and so like this is like the one mystery person kind of right now where it's like we know who he is in the past, but who is he now? Like what is his deal? And then like you guys said, all this love triangle of Kat, Elliott, and Brady. It's like, yeah, where are we gonna go? This episode though also like kind of gave me some theories around Kat and her time traveling, which maybe when we get to that, I'll talk about that.
Yeah, I do think this had a lot of 90s flair to it. I mean, the dancing to the Goo Goo Dolls, the Dave Matthews Band versus Limp Bizkit discussion was funny. And yeah, and that moment down the stairs with the red dress was very she's all that and very rom-com.
That was even
90s.
more sort of meta because Kyler was in the spoof of She's All That,
Oh,
not another
really?
teen movie, and she did the walking down the stairs where
Oh,
she falls.
that's a
So
great
yeah, so this
reference.
is like the second time she spoofed the same scene.
Mhm.
Oh, that's awesome. Maybe that's why
Yeah.
they did it. They were like, we can do any 90s moment. You've already done it. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
I
Yeah.
love that.
And so we learn a little bit more about what's going on with Brady. I guess things are bumpy with Rachel. Do you think we're ever going to meet Rachel?
Probably
I
not.
guess, yeah, probably not. But things are bumpier, and then she says, "Please don't confuse missing me as a friend with missing me as a wife."
Mm,
So I thought that was a good line.
yeah, that's a good
And
line.
yeah, and so then a teen Elliott tells him, I stand by what future me said. Things are getting confusing. And then Brady says, I had a feeling like I was coming home. And when he came to visit, and then you also have, like I said, this whole conversation between adult Brady and adult Elliott, them one-upping each other, trying to impress Kat, and Limp Bizkit versus Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah, there was like
Yeah, I
a
mean-
great. Oh, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think they have a really good dynamic as well as actors. Like they bounce off each other really well. And I think that really helps the dynamic as well between the three of them.
Yeah, I think they do. And the fact that, like I said, there is some questioning of who she will pick in the end, I think kind of adds to that.
Yeah,
going
and he
on.
had that fun parallel of like the dinner in the 90s versus the dinner in the modern day. And it was kind of like the same energy, I
Mhm.
thought that was a really nice like callback to kind of just show like, even if you're not able to necessarily be in the past the whole time, like you can see how they've like, there are things about these people that have like stayed the same and things that have changed. And you're kind of
Mhm.
seeing that in that parallel moment.
Yeah, and then we have this whole scene between Alice and Nick on the car. they're getting very cozy,
Mhm.
and then then there's this whole dance. Adult Elliott asks Kat to dance, and that was very sweet.
Mhm.
And then we get this red dress down the stairs, and then Alice talks to Brady and says, I'm glad you are who you are now. Which is cute. And it's a back to the 90s dance that they go to. And
Which is so ironic that that's what, like
Mhm.
this dance is coming up. It's back to the 90s. She's the one traveling back to the 90s and also trying to get Nick to basically come to meet her in present day in the 90s, like setting it all up to be at this dance. I was just like, what a strange like loop that is. Oh my goodness.
And it's just so weird for me. Like, I'm not ready for the 90s to be nostalgic, to be like looking back on the days.
Yeah. I was watching that 90s show.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Well, yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's as good as that 70s show, but
Uh-huh.
I heard on a podcast they were reviewing it and they were like, we're as far away from the 90s as we were from the 70s when that show started. And it like made me
It's wild.
it made me feel so old. I was like, what is happening?
No,
How is that
God.
possible?
We're getting old.
Yeah.
And so then they have this whole thing at the Roxy. Dell and Byron go on a date to the Roxy closing. What do you think of Dell and Byron? And are you surprised that they haven't? I feel like they haven't involved Dell as much as they could have. Maybe that's going to be coming. I mean, are we going to see Dell going through time travel? Do you think? What do you think, Kristen?
I wouldn't be surprised. That would be awesome. But you're right. And now that you say it, they haven't really included her in much of the story. Even in that 4th episode, like she's off to the side with Elliott. She's not really like in what's happening. I would think maybe like, you know, as we keep going, maybe she'll finally start coming into the loop as Alice and Kat start connecting more. Maybe they'll finally like reveal their time traveling, and then maybe she'll kind of get involved in there. But yeah, as of right now, she hasn't really done a lot. And even like the Byron date, like, you know, it's great that she's able to finally start wanting to move on, but I don't know, it wasn't really doing anything for me. I feel like they set it up just so that you could see that picture of her and her husband at the Roxy and being like, oh no, maybe I don't want to be on this date anymore. I miss my husband still.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm just really curious how much she knows and if she is even aware that that like time travel with Colton and Jacob might have been a possibility. She did wait a long time to have the memorial service. I mean, from when they were missing. But I don't know. What do you think, Michelle, about Dell?
I mean, I felt a little bit awkward during the whole, dating Byron thing, because it felt like everyone was telling her to move on before she was clearly ready. It felt like people weren't really respecting her. You know, it sort of happened with the boat and then the date. It just feels like people aren't really like she's telling people how she feels and people aren't really listening. They're sort of pushing her. And yeah, I do wish we got a little bit more with Dell. And I'm surprised. You know, maybe it just is a lot of work doing both timelines. And yeah, I was convinced in the first episode that she knew. Now I'm not 100% sure because, you know, like Kristen said, like the whole sort of Colton Jacob aspect changes that. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
I-
and Kat says, well, what if we told him? Like, what if we tell Jacob to and warn him in the past? And so, you know, that would change everything. But how could you not want to?
Right. That's kind of where my like theory was kind of coming in a little of, well, first of all, like she brings it up. Also, Jacob in this episode, when he sees that she's around, kind of refers to her as this white witch. She's like, oh, the white witch is here. And so I was like, what if like she gets so desperate that Kat is like, I'm going to try to save my brother. I'm going to try to protect him. And maybe she takes him into the future without meaning to, or maybe into a different timeline without meaning to. And maybe he's not really like kidnapped or whatever they think happened to him. Maybe he's just stuck in a different timeline because she thought she was helping him, but really started whatever it was that made him go missing to begin with.
Yeah, because we know 1814 is going to come into play sometime. We got that in the pilot. So what if he is somehow in 1814?
Ooh, that would be pretty cool. But it'd also be crazy because it'd be like everything that they've been doing is kind of what caused this kind of trauma in their family to begin with, if that is the case.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Can I just say, like, I did not expect this type of conversation about a Hallmark show. There's a show on Netflix, a time travel show called Dark. It's a German show. If you like time travel, it's one of the best time travel like shows, movies, anything ever. Don't let the subtitles put you off. It's so good. But one of the main like concepts all the way through it, and it's not a spoiler, is that one of the kids gets time travels and gets stuck in the past and grows up in the past and so when it's sort of this weird circle where there's multiple sort of, and when I started the second season I had to watch a whole video about the first season so that it was all clear in my head again before I started. And I feel like this is what this is turning into. I feel like the Hallmark show is it's like it's like melting my brain trying to come up with all of these different theories. It's so fun, but I just didn't expect it. And like considering
now
now
we're gonna have to be looking out for a random old person in the background. Like, is that him?
Yeah.
I mean, you almost think, are they gonna? So they're going back to 1999, and you wonder if there'll be another time period because, I mean, because obviously 1814 in wouldn't be alive in 1999. But yeah, it almost has like Outlander or, you know, some of these shows where they go back in time.
And if
Yeah.
Dell goes through the pond, will she come out when she was a teenager?
Yeah.
Like how what are the rules of the pond, and how
Mhm.
does it dictate,
Yeah.
you know, where you go or where
Mhm.
you're needed, I suppose. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Like,
Well,
what
and
if
oh,
that
go
girl
ahead.
from 1814 is Dell, and she like I don't know, time
Yeah.
traveled to some different time or something, and then
Yeah.
maybe
What
that's
if
why she did.
she time traveled into the 90s and then start, well, like, what if she's from the past? We don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. She was
We
kind of
all,
young, so I thought maybe it was Alice. If it is one of them, like it looked like a
Like,
teenager. Like, what if Alice
yeah.
ends up going to 1814 and then has to run and jump back in? I don't know. There's so many
there's
places to
something.
go.
Yeah.
Do you
And it's,
think my one theory that I think is definitely I think is a thing is that Alice starts the almanac. I think that is definitely
Ooh,
mm,
that would be so cool if like somehow she ends up, instead of time traveling to the 90s, ends up time traveling to, you know, whatever before 1814. Maybe that's why those people are running after her, because they're like, how did you get here? Like you're too modern, you know, are you a witch? And then maybe she starts that almanac and then, you know, has to time travel back to her present day, and that's why she's like running into that lake or something.
Mm.
Ooh, that'd be cool if
yeah.
that was Alice that started it all. Ooh.
And then we have the bracelet going on in this episode where when she first, the reason why she jumps into the pond at the beginning is because she threw her bracelet in there. And so we find out that was actually Kat's bracelet that was given to her by Brady.
It was nice getting to see, you know, a moment like that, because they had mentioned it, and then now that you get to go into the past, you get to, you know, really see it happen, and all like the,
Mhm.
you know, those little hints of like, they bring it up and now we're going to get to see it in the past.
Yeah. What did you think, Michelle, of the kiss between Brady and Kat? What do you think?
I didn't expect to see something like that on Hallmark. I mean, I watch, like, it's not shocking in the least,
Uh-huh.
but for a Hallmark viewer, just strictly thinking about that world, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
definitely
I mean,
surprised. It's yeah,
Jack and
and
Elizabeth actually had some pretty hot kisses in one called The Heart. It was just an incredibly slow moving romance, but yeah, so they can have some kisses in Hallmark, but it was surprising just for their characters. I think that they had this very
mhm,
passionate kiss. I do think they have really excellent chemistry. And then you have Elliott seeing them kiss from the distance. And of course, he doesn't see that she says, like,
mhm.
no, you know, this is not
And
happening or whatever. She says, I don't think we can go back even if we wanted to, which is really interesting when you consider she has gone back in time.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I'm not sure, just because, you know, I'm familiar with the writers and things like that. But I would be interested, even though I do think Kat and Elliot are sort of the way they're going sort of long term. I think it would be interesting to see like a Brady, not so much a redemption arc, but just to see him, you know, really grow and change throughout the show. I think I would be down for that, absolutely. Um, because I do think the actors, I don't think they romantically have the best chemistry, but because I don't really see them as a romantic couple.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I do think they do have good chemistry as actors.
Yeah.
That just made me think I'd love to see like a sliding doors episode or something, where it's like we see what would have happened if Kat ended up with Elliot, and what would happen if she ended up with Brady, and like show the different like, oh, that
Hmm.
would be crazy, you know, like, ooh, go outside the box really with this.
Yeah, that would be wild if they did kind of alternate, because it's how are they going to make time travel work in this story? You know, like, does the fact that now that Alice was on the date with them, does that change the timeline? You know, like, or how does her opinion of her dad affect Kat as a teen? You know, because you have to have them get together in order for her to be born. So you can't change things that much,
It's
but
like, but they said that they remembered her, you know, their friend Alice from back, so it's like, if she didn't go, would then nothing would have happened, you know, like, is it like she has to time travel and do all of this stuff in order for it to be the life that they currently have, like maybe she was always meant to be there,
Mhm.
And if she doesn't go, then like, what is that gonna mean?
Yeah,
'Cause they
that she
grew up
was
with her.
needed to be on the double date. If she hadn't been, then maybe everything would have changed.
Yeah,
That's the paradox of time travel.
I know, it's crazy. Oh, time travel, man, it really gets you.
But it sounds like things got pretty bad between Kat and Brady.
Mhm.
They said we were glorified roommates.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's can be rough. So it's interesting to see how that all plays out. It'll be interesting if they do a backstory of why they decided to name Alice Alice.
Mhm.
That would be kind of fun.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think we covered most everything on this one. You have everything at the Roxy as well, and they say we'll always have the memories of the Roxy.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So, what would you give this one, Michelle? 1 to 10. This episode.
I'm gonna give it a 9. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. What do you think, Kristen?
I think I might go 7 because I was really waiting for a reveal.
For a reveal about which
Who is Nick? Who
oh
is he? I
yeah,
want to know.
I really thought they were too, because he would be there. It just doesn't make sense that he wouldn't be there at this big moment for his mom's.
Yeah. This
So
one, I feel like, they definitely did a lot more with Kat and Brady and Elliott. And I guess I also like seeing what Alice is doing. And I feel like we didn't get as much of that this time around. But
yeah. Yeah. And you got to feel for Elliott, like managing all of these secrets all these years and
oh
not
my
telling
goodness.
anybody
Mhm.
is pretty good. But yeah, I enjoyed all the 90s nostalgia, even if it made me feel old. It was fun in this one. So I would give this one, I think I'll give it an 8, but I did enjoy it. So let us know what you think of these 2 episodes. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And Kristen, where can people find you?
You can find me at popcultureplanet.net, which is a site that I run where we talk all about the world of entertainment while also shining a light on representation and inclusion. And also just at Kaymaldo, pretty much everywhere. Kaymaldo.
Great. And what about you, Michelle?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out and make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you like Ponders as the name, we could be the Ponders Podcast. I don't know. Let us know what you think about that in the comments. And also check out, if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Hallmarkies Podcast Awards this week. So make sure to look forward to that. I think y'all will really enjoy it. And let's see what else. Oh, and then check out the Patreon group and merch store. We really appreciate that support there. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.